This is the Blooming Psyche podcast. Grab a seat and join us as we navigate life our own way.
Now let's begin blooming our psyche.
Like, this needs to work out. If this doesn't work out, it's all over. That's the thought process, right?
Yeah.
But when you allow yourself to be like, okay, hold on, there is literally 100 million other jobs out there to do in Canada and the US, whatever. You literally travel anywhere in the world and do anything.
So many options. And that's honestly
and you don't even need
intimidating.
school for all of them anymore. Like, you don't even need to have a degree.
Well, I mean, that's also falling out now.
Right? It is. But, like, a degree is amazing, and it's great, and it gives you a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
And through the process of getting a degree, you gain a lot of valuable information. You gain friends that could be valuable to you one day, that could maybe lead you in the right direction to follow a certain path, right? Don't not get a degree if that's something that you're interested in. But there are a million paths for the people that don't have them, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to be afraid to stand up for what you believe is right to keep a job, right? Like, go learn something new.
Especially if you're the one that has to put up with the brunt of the labor and the work, and you're the face of the company essentially towards customers. If your morale is poor, well, then your performance is poor, and then the image of the company is also poor, and then everything else that follows isn't very good.
Exactly.
Right? And then you usually end up getting backlash from the people who are above you because they're seeing that it's not going so great.
Yes.
But in reality, it's everything above it that's putting pressure on the people below.
Exactly.
Right? And unfortunately, people end up breaking because we're fragile. We don't want to break ourselves in order to do something when you know that what it isn't really realistic.
Yeah.
Like, you can only do so much with what you have.
Unless you have practiced an infinite amount of emotional stability and control.
You're a literal totem.
You're a literal just totem of I can fucking push through anything.
Yeah.
Right? People are fragile.
Yeah.
Outside of that.
100%.
Right? So if you are stressing, and because you're not wanting to bring it up to the people that are either stressing you out or the boss to talk about these problems, which a lot of people don't want to. They just want to completely avoid all of
confrontation.
Yeah, they don't want to get into confrontation. It's very common.
Yeah,
but you don't have to be afraid of confrontation, right? You just you have to stand up for what you believe is right. There's so many people that will complain behind people's backs. But if you just be like, okay, I want to see this change, and you don't see that change happen consistently, and it keeps coming back, right? Well, then maybe you just know it's not the place for you. That's fine, right? I was literally thinking last night while I was watching a YouTube video on how fridges work, that being a fridge technician might be kind of cool, because, like, there's some pretty cool engineering going on in fridges.
Yeah, 100%.
Dude, people, look up how fridges work. They're actually really fucking cool. And then you can find really, really, really easy ways to fix the freezing problems and the melting problems and the heating up problems and warming up in your fridge. It's really simple to actually fix a lot of these issues.
Really?
If you just look it up. It's a 4-minute video on YouTube. There's this engineering YouTube channel that literally teaches you how airplanes work and how, like, upwards thrust works, and helicopters and refrigerators and literally anything to do with engineering. Super, super cool stuff.
Very neat.
But you can just look into these things and be like, maybe I could have a job there and learn how that works.
Yeah.
And even if you only get a year out of it, well, now you know how to fucking fix a fridge.
Yes. Having a valuable skill like that isn't, you would think that it only applies to fridges, which you're unfortunately wrong in your assumption, because in order to get to that point, you have to understand. Well, yeah, fortunately for you if you're taking that path.
Yeah.
But you have to understand the different things that allow for that to take place. Like, if I have to understand even just how to turn specific tools in order to get access to certain places, well, that's also another skill that benefits in a multitude of things that require that, right? Because now you're knowing certain pressures, how to do certain things. Oh, okay, well, that thing's more let's say easily damaged by humidity. Like, well, why is that? Right? And if you can understand certain concepts, well, you can share that between other ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, I really have taken a liking to, instead of just mindlessly watching content and scrolling. And
death scrolling.
Getting death scrolling. That is the best way.
Yeah.
Your brain is turning off to the point.
Time travel.
Just to the point where you're getting dopamine, but it's like you're in a bed in a hospital, right? Like it's like dead.
Directly connected.
Dead. Ooh, dopamine dead.
Yeah.
Dopamine dead, and you're just like bored, excited, bored, excited, bored, excited. But I've
oscillating.
Yes, exactly. And I've taken a liking to looking at these engineering things because I've always kind of been interested in engineering, but I just never followed that path. And I think I might look into it. It's a very fascinating thing. And engineering is everything, literally everything.
It's the mechanics of how things work.
It is so cool, right?
Fucking potential. Like all of the things. Well, you can predict.
Yeah.
What that's essentially magic.
Yes.
Like
that is the closest thing we have to magic right now in our world.
Like what was a wizard? A wizard was someone who could know things that would take place that other people weren't aware of the phenomena that was behind it.
Yes.
So they could
manipulate.
You could work in the shadows and be like, okay, well, I know that the sun's going to go over here and this is going to do that. And every 10 years this happens and I'm going to predict this. And then it's going to come true. And then I'm going to be the wizard.
Yes. Well, I imagine back in the days, back in the Stone Age and all that, when there was people that like kingdoms and stuff, and a random person would be studying, like a scientist back in their, whatever they would call a scientist back in their day, would be studying.
Like a scholar or some shit.
Yeah, exactly. They'd be studying the sky and they'd see that every couple of years during this month and this month, like September and July, this belt of asteroids would fly through our solar system and we'd be able to see them and maybe just maybe if I predict this to happen in 6 months on this day that it'll happen, and everyone will see these asteroids coming into our orbit and whatever, and bring fear into everybody and maybe make the king think that I'm all powerful or whatever, and
has control over the elements.
Exactly. and I imagine people would have done that back in the day or tried, and then they would be either found out and be executed, or they would live a good, healthy, happy life as the wizard, right? Exactly. But now we have this with technology. Think about how a computer is built. I guarantee you there are millions of people on this planet that have computers. Almost everybody does, but nobody knows how it fucking works.
I mean, what is a computer? A phone is a computer.
Exactly.
So if that's the case, well then virtually everybody who is in a
has
culture that can do that.
Yeah, exactly. Or a fridge, as I was saying earlier. But I think what's really fucking cool is trains. Trains are cool.
What about trains?
They're wheels.
They're wheels, okay.
Yes. So do you understand how...
Well, they don't have a rubber or anything like that. Nope. It's metal on a rail.
It's not a circular shape like a regular tire.
No,
right?
It's got like a lip.
Yeah, it's kind of like
leans
more
on it.
Yeah, what would
there's
that
like an inner ring and there's a larger outer ring, and they rest upon the rail.
Yes, and they shift on the rail as you're making turns. So as you're turning, they'll shift all the way out to the edge of that railing, but they'll never lose the balance. Right, so it'll almost have fallen off the rail. It'll look like, but it won't fall off, because you'll be able to keep the speed the exact same and never fall off and never lose momentum. That's why it's the coolest thing, dude. You should look it up. I would say we should throw it on, but I mean,
even some friction is going to have like a deterrent to your speed because of the drag. But like now, think about magnetic trains.
Yes,
right. I mean, you've got sky trains and things like that. Yeah. Right, but now we're getting into a period of time where there's some different technology that we haven't really utilized as much as we could have or have in the past, but now it's kind of coming up, which is the more like magnetic scene of things, where you're being able to use the field that exists around the planet with ferrous metals that you can actually manipulate, right? We can't see it. We don't really use it other than maybe compasses and other directional devices and things like that for navigation. But when it comes to actual real life application, people don't really think or worry about it.
No.
Right? It's not really used as much as it could be. So now coming into electronic trains where you have the reduction of drag, essentially being in a vacuum, there is no drag because there's no friction, there's no contact. Right?
That's true.
So now what's your acceleration? What's your speed? Right? What's your carry capacity? Right? Is that a weight thing? What is the amount of force that you can generate between these to lift something. How far can you lift it? Okay, well now how can we work within these means with what's available
so
to
it
us?
doesn't fall off the edge due to the magnet? Yeah.
Yeah, and then what can we do with this?
Yeah.
Right? Is it just travel?
Could
right?
we make weapons out of it?
You could probably make. I'm
you could
sure
make
people
weapons.
could make a rail fucking gun shooting fucking rail spikes.
Well, or even worse, like, could you imagine just finding a way to attach a giant magnet to the bottom of a jet and flying it
dude.
over top of a tank and just fucking lifting a fucking tank off the ground? And
Imagine
flipping
a
it over?
mine.
Oh, dude,
a
a
reverse magnet mine.
Just
Flip the
flip the magnets over. Oh, that'd be nuts, dude. The other one is sound. Vibrational
yes.
frequencies.
Frequency is the fucking
That is the
baseline
mystery,
to everything.
Man. It is, but it's also the fucking one of the biggest mysteries to us.
Well, think of it in this way. You've got entropy. Entropy being used in a few different ways, being motion itself, right? Which is responsible for temperature. And temperature being the vibration of the actual molecules, the atoms that are oscillating and vibrating. So when you increase something's vibration, you increase its temperature.
Yes.
When you reduce it, the vibration goes lower and eventually stops if you hit absolute zero, right? But even then, there's slight vibration. But that also it's time. It's time travel for this thing because it's operating in a slower mode. It gets to last longer.
Yes.
Right? So certain things can wear away faster, but also be used to be more malleable,
Right.
more flexible, right? Which is why you warm up before you do exercise. So your muscles are moving in a way where they're more flexible.
Yeah. So you don't hurt yourself.
So you don't hurt yourself.
But the when I say it's one of the biggest mysteries to us is in its use, essentially.
Yes. Oh,
in its
so many.
technological use. It is
Yeah.
there is a group of people that I've heard of, probably just listening to like Joe Rogan or something. But it was a group of people that are over in some foreign country that are messing around with the use of vibrational frequency to lift items.
Okay.
And they think that this may have been one of the ways that they made the Egyptian pyramids.
For sound.
With sound, yes. Potentially gauntlets that could have lifted up massive squares and plopped them in this perfect spot and carved them to this exact like shape that they need to be
I would
in.
love to see how that's done.
Right? Wouldn't that be? But they're
What if they were
actually tinkering with this technology right now. They're trying to
Interesting.
make this a real thing and bring it into the eyes of the people.
Yeah.
As this may have been a form of technology back in the day, and it might have been lost to history.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's got to be some explanation clearly because it exists, but at the same time, I love the pursuit of why, right? Because you don't know how, or like you're kind of guesstimating what they did to do that thing, but it's giving people intuitions and curiosities and the creative elements to try to problem solve and investigate these issues, right? But amongst that path of understanding and unraveling the mystery, you start to learn and apply new concepts to things that now we can utilize in our time, right? Like, I don't know how you could even utilize those sound gauntlets because there's so many ways that would affect everything.
Yeah.
Right? If that was like a new up-and-coming technology where now you have the ability to manipulate things with sound. It's like literal magic.
Yes.
Right? Now, okay, well, if you have the ability to manipulate things with sound, what if you could sing and make shit move?
Yes.
Right? What if you would practice to tuning certain things with your body?
What about those specific people that can sing or that can make such a high frequency
you
sound with their
crack
voice
glass.
and break glass?
Yeah.
Right?
That's a fair point, right? Because that's a thing.
Yes.
Everything vibrates. So if you can change its frequency, maybe you can change
You have
its...
to match its frequency, right? So if you can
resonance.
find the frequency of this glass, and then you raise that frequency in your voice up to the frequency that's
and
required
then
to
you
break
can create
it,
it to... Or make it just be destroyed.
exactly.
But okay, well, it is a thing. So, but it seems like it would affect the entirety of the object rather than being more precise and accurate in
Yes.
like cutting something along a line.
Exactly. And this is that is where the question is arisen, right? Because like you look back at the Egyptian art and their hieroglyphs. Go ahead. Yeah.
So what if we just mentioned the resonance of specific objects. So let's say you have granite, which resonates at a specific frequency, and you have a tool, which resonates at a different frequency. If you were to manipulate the frequency of this tool, so it would vibrate, oscillate, whatever, and somehow cut said thing with that. Right. So maybe that was the way. I don't know. I'm just fucking.
No, that's totally possible because like if you think about it, like let's look at a water jet.
Yeah.
Right. We can cut metal with water.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's a pressure thing. It's a pressure thing. So right. What if we're changing frequency and that change of frequency is changing pressure, and you're changing that frequency to a point? How would you go about that? Going to try to change frequency to pinpoint that frequency down to a small enough space that you would be able to accurately carve into something and maybe even apply a specific amount of depth, right?
Damn, that's some fucking articulate control is what that is.
Yes. Well, think about it. What if, like, how did they do the hieroglyphs? They're all perfect when you look at them.
Well, it could be like an impression, like they could have like almost a stencil.
Like people, they must have. I think like what do Egyptologists believe that they were chiseled and stuff like that,
I don't know.
Right?
Fucking
or
anyone
like
is
carved
anything,
with
man.
like whatever chisels and like they tried to make it But what if it was with vibrational frequency that was tuned to a specific depth to almost do the opposite of a 3D printer? And just make that exact shape that you're looking for. And like, what if they had this little screen that they made out of vibrational frequencies that showed you what you were going to make, and then you just like
what the fuck
into the side of the stone, right? Who knows?
I don't know, man.
Fucking crazy shit. But absolutely in the universe possible.
I'm sure there's ways to do a lot of things at which we have no idea how to harness those potentials. Right, because we just haven't explored those things to that depth.
Exactly,
and find its weaknesses and strengths.
We may not even have the material to have a lot of these things be possible.
Yeah, that's
right?
another thing.
That's another thing, right?
Yeah.
If you look at one of the planets out thousands of solar systems away, they believe that this planet is completely filled with diamonds. Right. So there could be planets with materials that we have never even come across. So 100%. There could have been asteroids that came from other planets that have been destroyed that landed on our planet. And is now buried beneath the surface, and we just haven't found the contents of this asteroid, right? It's
I'm sure
it's possible, but I'm just trying to come up with ideas.
Yeah, no, I'm sure a lot of what's like these weird elements and things that are on our planet that aren't in, let's say, the mantle or the core, right? Something that's not integral to the Earth itself. A lot of this pieces had fallen from space, right? And then
like cobalt,
totally
or something.
Like, I'm not sure. Like maybe certain mines are the impact of a thing in a crater that eventually someone found and turned into a mountain and whatever.
Well, no. Like cobalt in the Congo has been. I was watching an interview with a woman, and there's these massive mountains that are made of asteroid.
Fuck.
That is all cobalt, and that has been bought by the American people. They've come over and claimed these asteroids as their own.
Sheesh. And
they are taking all the cobalt out of it. Fucking crazy.
I mean, it is what it is.
And like, I want to look that up, but because I feel like I'm pulling that out of my ass. But I definitely heard it was either cobalt or a different element or a different thing. That
cobalt's definitely in the Congo.
That came from asteroids that have made mountains that are literally there. And they're massive.
I mean, true or not. I wish it's true.
I hope it's true.
But it's fun to speculate about.
Oh, absolutely. I love stories.
Yeah, no, it just shows, like, if that is an asteroid, how much did that fuck our planet? I'm sure it royally destroyed it.
Oh, absolutely.
In its time, right?
Yeah.
So, when was the last time that happened? That was like 13,000 years ago.
Or more.
Right? Somewhere around that period of time. But obviously, it happened in prior events as well. But back to the kind of resonance and magnetic topic and ancient history, Göbekli Tepe being kind of one of the staple landmarks that have been found recently that points to societies living during the Ice Age, right? During that period of time that either like who knows how the series of events went that led to this, but it's called Potbelly Hill is what Göbekli Tepe stands for. And there's dozens of these little, like not little, but like quite large hills, like maybe 20, 30 meters around, kind of a little bit larger potentially surfaces, where you have bowl almost shaped kind of craters with different monolithic stones carved with tons and tons of different animals from all sorts of parts of the world and all sorts of different pieces like that. But within the center of these kind of bowls, there are like a T-shaped monolithic stone piece, like 10, 20 tons, like huge. Holy shit. Right? So, but the shape...
T-shaped kind of obelisk.
Yeah. Okay. But where the placement of it is also important, right? Because you have things called ley lines, which is basically streams of quartz that go through the earth, that when they intersect, you have kind of anomalies that are created where the magnetic fields are amplified, right? And for these amplified areas, you can then utilize or harness that energy or that field that's present. So the bowl is almost like a tuning bowl with a tuning fork in the center that resonates at that frequency and kind of can, I don't know, maybe, I don't know what you're doing with it.
Right.
I don't know that technology, but I'm sure that it was there for a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, like you don't build something for nothing, especially in a sense where it's almost like you're teaching someone, you're leaving something as information.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like the pyramids.
And that's the thing is there's people that have speculated specific things about history, but every day we see history changing now. The idea of history. Yeah. The idea of how far back humans go.
Right? Yeah, like now it's like speculated 800,000.
No, even farther. Farther, way farther.
Yes.
3.4 million.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, like humanoid-shaped skulls, not like more monkey-esque,
not direct,
like humanoid-shaped. Yeah. 3.4 million years ago. That's fucking crazy to me. Yeah. Just the idea of that, right? That we go back potentially that far, or maybe it was just a subbreed of what we turned into. Right? We might be a subbreed of an original
we certainly are.
Form of us, right?
Certainly.
Especially if you go back with the we were born in Africa as monkeys thing, like that theory. If you go back that far,
I kind of disbelieve that.
There's 100 million things that it could be, right? But I can tell you that I don't believe that we popped up one day and we were like, oh, let's form community.
Fat chance.
Right?
Because those things have to be bred into you over time, right? By you're facing a specific challenge, a specific struggle where this is the key.
Yeah.
This is the thing that solves the problem, right? And the more it solves the problem, the more that it's bred in.
Yeah.
Right? The more that it's utilized, more that you're actually incorporating that into your lifestyle and teaching it to future generations to keep that in the pool.
This is how evolution works.
Absolutely.
Right? So the reason why a tiger is so big and muscly is because that's what worked for the tiger.
It's how it has to be.
So we probably started off the pussy race. The pussy group of all animals.
Or maybe it was the inverse.
Who knows? Maybe we were super strong one day, but we decided that because we were so strong and that we were able to take on any animal out there, that we wanted to expand our minds because we were just fucking bored.
It gave us the actual capability of doing that.
Exactly. And then over time, we were like, well, maybe we don't need the muscles because we have our brains.
Yeah.
That's our biggest muscle now. Fucking cool. And then this is just kind of how the evolutionary line went. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing that shit in animals all the time now. They're bored because they have the basic need of food and water met. So when you look at a cat, for example.
I was just thinking about that.
Right? When you look at a cat, you see that it is now, because it's being fed, it knows when it's going to be fed at like this specific time, usually every day, and it's getting its water, and it knows it's not going to go hungry. Well, its basic needs are met. So what does it do? It's bored. Now it needs to find something to entertain itself. So you see the cat go outside and you see it pick up a fucking rabbit, and you see it fucking
Fucking
lap it
torment it.
around. You see it lap the rabbit around for fun, pick it up, throw it around, do whatever, play with it, and then eat it.
Yeah.
Right? But it'll play with it first. It's going to mess with it, and it needs that entertainment now because all it's doing is usually sitting around. I literally saw my cat meditating the other day. Like, straight up. I just saw it sitting there, eyes closed, head down, paws together, just meditating. I was like,
Chilling out.
sweet. So I went outside and I meditated with my cat. It was fucking awesome. It was super fun. But, like, you see these interesting changes in so many different types of animals, especially in monkeys, because we are, I believe that we are a form of monkey. No matter what we say, we have that general.
Yeah, or at least we share a common ancestor.
We share, a very common ancestor.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we see it in monkeys where they are now using tools to hunt, like fish and stuff, right? Like the orangutan that he was using a stick to try to stab fish.
Imagine watching a caveman evolve.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Pretty well, yes. Because it's either, I don't know, maybe the evolutionary line sees that we as a race are a threat, right? And when I say race, I don't mean white, black, Chinese, or whatever, right? I mean, like, just humans.
Yeah.
They might see us as a threat, especially in the Western cultures, right? And where they do massive destruction of forests. And this is forcing evolution to come at a much more frequent rate, right? So before you would see orangutans, they'd be lounging, they'd be going and collecting, but that was 20 years ago. And within 20 years, they've somehow figured out how to pick up a stick and start fishing with a stick.
Observation, maybe.
Mimicry. It could be observation.
Right?
It could just be watching humans do it,
Yeah.
right? Which is helping them in the evolutionary process. However, there's also the chance that due to the orangutan's forest being completely just destroyed for capitalistic purposes, that they are like, well, this isn't working for us anymore. We're not getting food. So now it's making them have to step out of that comfort zone that made them what they are and now have to grow to now do something new to be able to feed their families and to be able to feed their children, right? And further the evolutionary line, right? I think when you look into animals that go extinct at not an extremely fast pace, but slow enough and fast enough that you can see the animal want to do something and make change so that they don't go extinct.
Yeah.
You see them do really outrageous things for their breed.
Well, they need to risk for the reward.
Exactly, right? It's like a person that is extremely poor and addicted to gambling.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm going to bet my house
because
I
you
got
need that
nothing
money
else.
to get it back.
You need the money to get it back, right? So this monkey is willing to hang over a fucking crocodile-infested water, stab a fish with a stick because it's willing to take that risk to try to get the fish to feed its family so that they can continue on, right? We see that with a lot of different types of animals, I'm sure, right? I haven't studied it enough, but there's definitely other forms of like animals coming to us humans for help, like a duck that lost its ducklings down a drain.
Yeah.
Right. I've seen a video recently of a duck walking up to humans, stopping them in traffic, like in their truck, quacking because it's got nothing fucking to lose. All of its kids just fell in a drain, and then the people get out and get all their kids out of the drain, and the ducks fuck off and continue on.
Yeah.
Right? It's just so crazy and interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, imagine having, like, think about it as like a symbiotic relationship, right? You're a buffalo or a hippo.
Or a dog.
Right? But let's say you're a hippo and you've got little birds that eat the mosquitoes or the bugs or something that's picking at your skin or something like that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Right?
Yeah, like the sharks and the little fish that'll clean the inside of the shark's mouth.
Yeah.
The sharks won't eat it because they know that
it's helping them.
It's helping them. It's getting all the bacteria out so that they have clean teeth so they don't fall out so they can eat. Right? So they intentionally don't eat that fish. That specific type of fish.
Yeah, it's their friend.
Those fish will go under their fin and eat under their armpits and shit like that. You know, like it's really cool to see all the symbiotic relationships that you can see in the world. Like a dung beetle and shit. Fucking weird, but you know what? Whatever they have their purpose of doing that for, I have known nothing about them.
Everything can be exploited if you have the means.
Yeah.
Right? And just like any decomposing thing, There are so many things that are going to utilize the death of something just as something's going to utilize the life of something, right? Because everything goes in cycles, right? Death and life, one has to exist, and if one exists, the other has to exist.
Yeah.
For the sake of starting and stopping something.
Yes.
Right? All of your atoms, everything like that has a cycle. So seeing the cycles in things also helps you predict what's going to occur.
Yeah.
Because things are, you can, like, if you know the order of something and it typically happens in that fashion, well, now you can pinpoint things in different spots of this cycle and use that for all sorts of gain. Like, let's say you figured out how to manipulate magnetism because you figured out from A to B something that you can exploit. Well, now you can use that weakness as a strength and leverage it. Right? And that can lead to all sorts of innovation.
Well, just like the Polynesian learning how to map the sky so they know the direction that they're moving in.
Totally.
Just while they're on the sea in the middle of the fucking ocean looking for islands.
Yeah, or like the Norse using moonstones, which is a translucent stone that you can see through the clouds with the moon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because of the reflection of the sun. With the sun.
Or even to a more basic and simple premise, people that are lost making marks in trees. Right?
Yeah.
Just to know the way back. Right? Simple stuff. Right? You're lost. You're like, oh shit, what do I do? Well, I know that this is the place where I keep my camp. I'm gonna make marks on the trees. Easy as that, right? But like that, it goes from that to something as big and crazy as literally. it's infinitely expansive. I can't even think of an idea right now. That would be the biggest thing that I could think of in that regard.
Yeah.
Right. It's just.
There's so many complex things in this world that
it's crazy.
That's where the mind, the curious mind, the thing that's interested in so many things, there's so many ways that you can take life and go through life that you would want 10 lives. Right? For all the weird, interesting quirks that we have in this world that you don't even know what's next. Because there's so many things tugging and pulling in each different direction.
Exactly.
That has the ebb and flow of cause and effect, like simply the ripple effect or the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Right? Something having a distinct and dramatic change in the landscape of what's available to you from one specific thing happening. Like COVID is one example, or fucking the Black Plague, or an asteroid, or a war, or whatever. These things have so many effects in the world because of just simply cycles. You know that this one thing is going to come back around like a boomerang because you've sent this into the zeitgeist. Right? You know that it has to go there and come back because of the inertia of physics, right?
Exactly.
If I'm giving a force is going to be felt on both sides.
Yeah, that's exactly the point of life and death, like you were just talking about a second ago, right? If you are brought into the world, you will die at some point. It doesn't matter what you are.
Yeah.
We think about this as just things that are alive.
Yeah.
The sun dies.
Yeah. Your fucking
Every
skin
single
cells
your
go through
skin cell
cycles.
dies. You have billions of skin cells that are dying every second on your body, and regrowing new ones, right?
Yep.
It's just a whole part of life, as everything is. It's crazy though to me. It's crazy where we have come to, because there's a million paths that we could have taken, whether there was civilizations before us or not. Right?
Certainly so.
Like, well, even if there wasn't, right? It's just crazy to me that this is where we've led ourselves to.
Yeah.
And that we didn't take some other path. That we didn't come to some other conclusion of how we can have things be more simple for us as people.
Yeah.
Right? Come to comfort in magnetic fluctuations and stuff, right?
Like what if we went down that path instead of electronics?
Yeah, exactly. Like what if our form of transportation was getting launched in a fucking hamster ball and that was magnetically attracted to another thing that would catch you on the other side of the
like a magnetic
on
net.
the other side of the fucking town, whatever, right?
That's
Crazy
so wild.
shit. What a wild, but it could have been a thing, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
But the idea of, and this is why I like engineering so much and just looking into it, is because you get to understand how all of these things that we've created work.
Yeah.
And from that, you can say, okay, well, what if I took this concept and I put it into this with this other kind of concept, like magnetism,
so like applying systems.
Yeah, like so where we would usually like use electricity,
Yeah.
somebody found out how to use the wind to make electricity. Somebody found out how to use the rushing waters of a river to make electricity, right? And we expanded and extrapolated off of what we had as a base knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the cool thing. But what I'm seeing recently is that people are like, we want to just kind of stay because we're comfortable here, right? We don't want to expand any further than that. But that's not how humans are. And I think people need to stop worrying about staying where we are and let people do what they're going to do. Because that can bring some beautiful, incredible new inventions and pioneerings in engineering that we couldn't have even thought of before. People say that we've made everything that we'll ever be able to make, but that's completely false.
Oh, 100%.
Completely false. Even if we were completely wiped out tomorrow, we would come back, likely, unless we were completely destroyed. But if we were to be stick around, and some of us were to stay alive and we were to repopulate the planet, we would come back and we would probably have a completely different take on how to live life, because our history as this would be lost in time, right? Just like Malaysian culture, right? Malaysians were, all of their history was destroyed by Christians, and all their literature was destroyed by Christians because they believed in a different God, or they believed in different gods, right? And so Christians would come by and they would burn hundreds of books, and none of them were left spared. So now we have know nothing about their technology of the past or anything that they believe in their belief systems. Nothing. It's sad.
You have no opportunity to glimpse into that.
And exactly. And this can go away just as fast as anything else, right? That's the crazy part to me. All of this can go away in the blink of an eye. All of this history can be lost at any time, right?
Yeah, because generally what we have is built generationally in terms of our culture, right? What we incorporate into what's known. Because if it's not talked about or thought about or seen or used in any way, shape, or form, well, then it's not brought in. It's like a 50-year-old having whatever memories of their childhood and these things that were popular, but 30 years later with the people now, well, guess what? You're not going to understand, know, or even... you would have no connection to that information whatsoever.
Think about this theory. This is a theoretical thought that I just kind of popped up or brought up in my head.
Yeah.
Think about the concept of systematic execution.
Of what?
Of people.
Of people, okay.
Okay, let's just take the world leaders, and they say, we want to completely rebuild and revamp the world as we know it. We're going to execute everybody over the age of 25.
Damn.
Everybody under the age of 25 will be the new generation. They don't know anything really about the history of that. We're not going to give them any history from these people that we've executed and further. And we're going to rebuild with what these people could create. What do you think we'd come up with?
Sounds like a nightmare for one.
I think, yes, absolutely. Now, that said, like, there's obvious reasons they can't do that because the world would fall apart, likely.
Well, you wouldn't be able to track people down like that, but...
No. Absolutely.
I mean, you could, but it would be strange.
Yes, but if they were to be successful, do you think that these people that know nothing of our history and had to create new life for the young people in the world, so the 25-year-olds are the old people now, the young people are now, they're growing up not knowing anything about their history as a human being and where they've lived, and now they have to make the new technology. Do you think the technology would be the same?
Fuck no.
As what we have now?
No, because you'd have someone who doesn't understand shit and doesn't keep you in check. It would be like you having this weird belief or understanding that, okay, well, like I heard this on Joe Rogan, where if you have a dog that's eating a bone and its teeth don't fall out and it's good for the dog, why wouldn't a human do that? So I'm going to get every single person to eat bones. It's like, who the fuck thought about that?
Yeah.
Like, no one checked this guy before he wrecked himself and everyone with him. Like, that's what would happen. You'd have so many things going unchecked because of invalid wisdom, because someone thinks something's applied this way and it isn't. They just don't understand the way that the world works, and that's where the elder wisdom comes in.
But how did we get to this point here? Through trial and fucking error.
Yes, but it also was built on previous generations because of the cumulative information that stacks.
But at some point we had to start from nothing.
Absolutely.
Right? And so
And
obviously we would probably go through a phase of complete shitstorm. Right? Especially if those people in power that decide we're going to execute everybody over this age executed themselves too as a consequence, right? And just let them to their devices. It would be chaos for thousands of years, I would imagine.
Oh yeah.
And then we would
Probably
probably
10,000 years.
Probably 10,000 years or more, right? We could be going extinct because of it. Who knows, right? But who's to say that there won't be some Elon Musk-esque motherfucker in the future that's just like, or some Leonardo da Vinci dude in the future that's going to be like, I need to figure something out. I need to figure out how I can expand and extrapolate off of what I do know. And then build whatever I can out of whatever.
What's available.
What's available, exactly. So maybe they find technology that can be used and they find a way to build electricity or a form of power from trees. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Like
that's not a burning.
Yes, exactly.
Harness the photosynthesis and drive that into some kind of piezoelectric
Because as
engine.
a child, I'm sure you did this experiment as well in science class, but like you know that you can gain an electric current from potatoes.
Correct.
Right? And you can power a light bulb from a potato.
Well, that's like the electrolyte. That's the electrons, because you don't have the resistance, because you have good resistance because of the conductivity of the moisture content. Right, because it's allowing the travel electrons being pushed from one side to the other.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
But you can use that because of the natural production of the plant itself, taking that energy through the quantum function of photosynthesis and pulling it into its cells for energy, and then you're harnessing that.
Totally. So what's to say that some young, super intelligent motherfucker isn't to, and let's just say over the course of 10,000 years, they're probably going to lose a lot of that intelligence because it's going to go straight back to survival instinct.
Think about us. You fucking forget your phone number because you have a phone. Like,
yes,
you're not going to remember half the shit.
So it will likely be a fresh start.
Yeah.
If you find a form of technology that may work, it will be grown from that.
Totally.
That will be the new baseline. So what's to say that they're not going to find some way to communicate with fucking animals? They're not going to find a way to communicate with the fucking forest. They're not going to find some way to use. They're not going to find some way to use dirt to create some form of technology that can help them get transportation or something, right? There's literally infinite possibilities, especially on a planet that is so rich with minerals and so rich with all this stuff that we can that we can obtain. Right? How likely is it that we're going to come back full circle to electricity through copper wire? How likely do you think that actually is?
Well, the way that I just think about that is, think about some times where you've had like an inventive idea and you're like, oh, this would be really cool, right? And then instead of you using that idea and then creating it, like a week or a month later or something, you see it existing and you're like, what? I just had this idea. But it wasn't you that was having the idea. It was the general necessity of this thing, and that being a solution for the problem. And someone else saw the solution to that problem as well. And they got onto it first.
Yes.
Right? And that just brings me, I mean, you can continue your point, but
well, like I was just trying to see what, like, if you think that we would likely just go straight back to copper over the course of 10,000 years.
Yeah, I
finding
think,
electricity that way, if somebody else would discover that again, right? Because how did we discover electricity the first time and how it powers things?
A single spontaneous event.
Exactly.
Right?
So what if that single spontaneous event comes from somebody getting crushed by a boulder and somebody witnessing it?
Yeah. Yeah, like an apple falling from a tree, and then you realizing that things have a gravity.
Yeah. Oh shit, we have gravity. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like there's literally infinite amount of ways that the future could go if you were to remove our history from the people that are in the younger generations.
Let's say even take it another step further. Let's say we do rewind time, or rather fast forward time until we get hit again, but we go back to time where we did have catastrophic occurrences, and then you were wiped down to 1,000 people or whatever, right? Whoever survived that maintained specific knowledge and information, hopefully that was captured and likely was to produce certain monoliths that we see today, right? From our past, of people who understood specific concepts because they kept them, and then during that reset they were able to apply them, and then it looked like these people were highly civilized or advanced, but likely they're just using information of their understanding that they kept before whatever thing had occurred.
Yeah.
Because there is transition periods. There is a definite period of time where something wasn't there and then was. Right? And in order for people to exist, there had to be someone that existed on one side of the event and the other, right? So that information is being transferred.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
and likely that's what we see with the pyramids potentially.
Totally. Well, let's think about it as you were about to go the other way. Let's think about it if we do rewind time. What if somebody pushed? Was it Tesla? Nikola Tesla? That got electrocuted? Who was it?
Someone in that kind of group.
My brain is not working right now. What if you pushed him out of the way of that electricity?
Yeah.
What if you pushed him out of the way of that fucking lightning bolt, and he never found out from that spontaneous event?
Or it just never happened.
Or it just never fucking happened, right? I bet you if the parallel universe theory exists and it is a real thing, that didn't happen in one of these universes, and their technology is completely different from what we see.
Yeah, like steampunk or something.
Literally, like one thing that could change the entire course of the future.
Yeah.
Or history, right? So, do you think that maybe with enough undisturbed time, that everything that we can imagine to come to reality is an inevitability in the way of technology?
The circumstance would have to facilitate it, because just like we were talking about earlier, things go in cycles. So if your society goes up to a point where it can facilitate a thing, but you didn't capitalize on it when it was a capability, and then it swings down the other way because of the inertial impact of just life itself and things going up and down, well, then now you lose this potential and you now can't capitalize on it. Right? So maybe in this other fragmented multiverse reality where you have this other thing occurring simultaneously, well, maybe then you can kind of see that span of events take place.
Right. So, yeah, and that makes total sense. The way I just totally envisioned that was like with the whole not capitalizing on that idea and going forward with that when you see the opportunity, just made me think of like WALL-E, that movie.
Yeah.
And like how there's just shit all over the planet, just garbage everywhere, and they probably had no way of dealing with that issue, right? After a certain point. They
other than leaving the
planet, right? Which is essentially what we're trying to do on this planet.
Yeah.
What I believe firmly is that, yes, we are maybe damaging the planet a little bit, right?
Yeah.
We're not doing the majority of the damage to the planet. Nature is.
Yeah.
Right? Because the planet naturally has a cycle, like a woman on a period, right? The planet naturally goes through cycles of being a very destructive force in the universe, right? To itself, right? So it'll get hit by asteroids, or it'll have massive explosions of volcanoes, and tornadoes and tsunamis will just completely tear up everything. And that's just the cycle that it goes through every 30,000 or so years, or whatever amount of time, right? And it'll do this after whatever amount of time. And so what we're trying to do is escape to get to a new planet. But what isn't being thought about is preserving the planet enough to be able to come back when that other planet goes through its cycle, right?
Yeah.
So how long, once we get to Mars and we fully populate it, will it take for Mars to go through its cycle of becoming a completely destructive force to everybody? And then we'll have to escape to what? What's the next planet we'll have to escape to, right? Will we have to leave the solar system and find a new one? Will we have to, or will we just have to wait and hope that Earth gets better so we can fly back 30,000 years later?
See, my thought is AI is probably going to be integral in the process of this, and potentially that taking the front line, if you will, right? And that being more capitalized rather than people.
Yes.
And then them exploring, because they're one, more able, depending on the circumstance, because of our fragile human bodies, and being able to do things that we can't, timeline-wise, and then using that to our advantage. But potentially them using it to their advantage, depending on the way in which AI progresses and if sentience does occur.
Exactly. The problem is with AI is that it's, even if it doesn't occur that AI becomes a real sentient being of artificial intelligence and becomes real intelligence, right? Like we are. The problem with it is if it doesn't, it becomes a tool that we rely on.
Absolutely.
And it already is becoming a tool that we rely on. Like that kid's book.
Yeah.
What if I was trying to become a published author and I had no idea? Every time I looked at a piece of paper, I got writer's block. I couldn't write anything. I sucked at writing stories. But then I went to get ChatGPT, which I've done, by the way, people, and type in a very brief description of a story that I want told, of a book. And then that story is perfectly told, and maybe you'll do a couple little tweaks to make it your own, but that story is perfectly told for you in this fantastic format for a kid's book. Right? Like yeah, people are going to want to capitalize on that. I already found videos of people that are like, how to make $26,000 a month on ChatGPT selling books. After I talked to you about that story. And I was just like, well, yeah, because...
See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right, with the invention thing, right? Like,
right? But that's the problem.
Force.
That's the problem, right? Is that people are going to become reliant. So we're just going to get dumb. And this is probably...
We already are dumb.
We already are getting dumber by the day. Like,
yeah.
But the problem is, the more we rely on this, the less likely that it is that in any event that will threaten humanity, that we will be able to think our way out of it anymore. And we don't have the bodies to be able to handle these imminent threats.
I feel like there are still people doing the legwork, but I feel like there's less. But the people who are doing the legwork have to do more, which in turn makes them stronger and better.
Yes. However, there has been proof of people that will take ChatGPT and they will ask it questions, or they'll say, I work for Google and I haven't done any work today, but I've been told that I need to have a list of things that I complete. Can you write me a complete list of things and all of the code for the projects in these lists that I got done today? And it will give you all the code for all of the things that you need.
Probably better than you doing it.
Probably better than you doing it, likely, with maybe a couple, like less errors than you would make and less amount of time, right? And then these people just hand it in. Here you go. I did nothing today, but you think I did something. How fucking crazy, right?
Well,
and at what point do we start going to ChatGPT with our theories and questions about science, right? Let's say we see something, this atom that is starting to tweak in a different way or move in a different fashion than we would be accustomed to, and we bring this question now to ChatGPT instead of using our brains and using what we know already and then applying that to this new thing. Now ChatGPT is taking over that role. Now we can just ask it such a simple question that we don't need to ask questions anymore.
See, I've tried that. And the way that it uses the information is it doesn't try to give you unverified in its own perspective information. Right? So you'll ask it something and it'll be like, well, we know that this is this because of that. And it's like, okay, well, that's not what I asked you, right? I asked for a novel information of you synthesizing something and creating something new, but it didn't do that.
Right. And that's probably intentional because that gives...
But that was also 3.5. We now have ChatGPT 4, and I don't currently understand the new capabilities of it.
Yes. But, like, thinking about it, what would it having its own ideas be?
That is also... what I would imagine a sentient thing would do.
Exactly.
But if you're a multiplexer and you're creating or synthesizing the rules behind something, right? The pillars, the things that hold it up, like physics, right? But what if you were to theorize? What if you were to be an AI that theorizes these things?
Yeah.
Well, then now you are that.
Exactly.
You are the synthesis of that information.
Yes. So
rather than just the collector.
Could you ask it that question, but say, put the word theoretically before it? and
Potentially.
and have it answer you anyways.
I haven't tried
in
that.
its own idea. Should we try that right now?
Yeah, sure.
Let's fucking do it. We'll be right back. Okay, so we asked the question. I will have Aries read. The question was.
I think we just accidentally muted ourselves for like half of this.
We might have just muted ourselves. But
here we are, back
at it. I really
hope
we misclicked the mute button. Anyways, we're back. Here we are. We just as an update, we asked ChatGPT a theoretical question. And that question is, theoretically, if you were to create a new novel technology for humans to evolve faster, what would it be?
And so we were talking about if it could theoretically do something, right? Like creating something new out of something that wasn't already there. Like, for example, an AI using information that's given to create a technology that we don't currently possess. So we were like, okay, what if we ask it theoretically something? And that's what it came up with, or that's what we came up with. And it ended up spitting us like 4 paragraphs of different ideas as to how this could theoretically be produced, potentially if it exists now or not.
Yeah, it talks a little bit about genetic engineering and by manipulating the genetic code of humans, stating that scientists could potentially enhance desirable traits and eliminate or reduce negative ones. This could include increasing intelligence, improving physical strength or endurance, or reducing the risk of genetic diseases. However, there are many ethical and social concerns surrounding genetic engineering, including questions about who would have access to these technologies and the potential of unintended consequences or unforeseen risks.
Which we already are aware of these things, so
absolutely
that's not necessarily passing our test here. So
nope, not quite.
Another possible idea is to develop brain-computer interfaces. So that's actually what we're starting to do with Neuralink type things. More direct communication between brain and machines or networks by connecting the brain directly to these systems. That sounds a little scary or sus, but here we are in this world where information is everywhere, regardless of if you want it there or not.
Yeah.
Potentially access and process information faster than we currently do. That makes sense. Leading to faster learning, problem solving, and better decision making.
Mm-hmm. And then it says its third idea is to develop advanced virtual reality technologies that can simulate complex experiences and environments. So this is something that I think is already also being talked about.
Correct.
So it kind of just seems like it does take things that are prevalent in the world. However, this is still pre-2021 information that it's learned, right?
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Right, that's also another drawback because you're not using the cutting edge information.
Yeah, exactly. So when, I don't know, is it ChatGPT or GPT-4 right now, or
it just came out, but I don't know if it's easily accessible.
No, okay, yeah, interesting. But yeah, it definitely does have interesting takes.
I mean, certainly direct, and it solved the problem of that we asked it.
Yes, but
other than the new novel.
Yeah, new novel tech. Yeah, it's not its own idea.
Yeah.
So we can't manipulate it to theoretically create its own new technology.
Unfortunately.
But how much of its coding would need to be changed to make it think of its own ideas?
I feel like not a lot. I feel like if it was built in a way that it wasn't just a information collecting and
spewing
and like just converting it into whatever you function or format that you asked of it.
Exactly.
Right? It's not doing that. It would have to be more so made in the way that you're trying to combine things to understand how and why they are rather than just what they are. Right? You would have to be leveraging the phenomena that are behind something happening rather than just observation of symptoms of something, and then kind of just talking about those.
Yeah, totally.
So
very interesting program, though. Very helpful. Very cool.
Yeah, but just the way of technology.
Yeah,
now.
it's just, and it's so quickly evolved. So quickly in the last 20 years, everything has changed by the year. Almost.
Compounding.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
But got to think about the things that aren't changing, that have the illusion of change, right? Like maybe not entirely not changing, but slowly and kind of misinterpreted, which would be like cell phones.
Yeah.
Sure, there's a lot of things coming out with cell phones, but it's not multiplying. No, like you're coming out with new versions of something that is essentially the same thing with a different shell or this one little quirk added or this and that, right? It's not like an overhaul. You're not coming out with anything fundamentally new and creative.
It's got more accurate heart rate or like tracking and stuff like that. Like
sure,
little tiny things.
That might be novel, right?
Oh,
like
absolutely.
That's something that wasn't there before, but
it does have that.
But it does.
It picks up on your pulse.
Yeah, but there's other things that also do that.
Absolutely, like the Fitbits and all that stuff, right? But like, yeah, every time they just kind of make it just that tiny little bit better, even though it's not actually really any better. It's just having new things, and it's a little bigger.
Those are cumulative.
Yep.
Right. These things stack. They add.
Yep.
If you're not trading it off for something else.
Yeah.
Right, but maybe your trade is slightly better than the previous thing, and then by that virtue, you are progressing in a sort, right? But you're not going at the turbulent speed that popping electric vehicles out of nowhere and then that shifting, right? But now that electric vehicles are here, it's not as novel for another electric car.
Yeah.
Or a different electric vehicle because it's not the first of a thing.
Exactly.
Right. So what is the new novel things that are coming out, and is that a good thing? Is it the most important thing that we have this spontaneous consumer environment where there's never enough of anything, right? You always want the next best thing. You always want more. You're always left with the dissatisfaction of just the lasting effect of, let's say I had an iPod, right? Well, I wouldn't need a new music device because it didn't break. It wasn't doing anything wrong, but a new thing came out, and therefore I want it.
But that new thing has more space.
Yeah.
So you can get more songs.
So just throw your other thing in the garbage. You might as well just not even have it anymore and just buy what I want to sell you because that's all that I'm going to show you now.
It's really interesting watching human behavior over the course of these last 20 years or so.
Yeah.
Right? Because you see people say, I'll be happy when this happens.
Yeah.
Insert whatever the fuck here. I'll be happy when I
get a girlfriend.
Car. I'll be happy when I get a girlfriend. I'll be happy when I have $1 million in my bank account. I'll be happy when I have a baby. Whatever the fuck
when I retire.
When I retire. Oh God.
Only then will I be happy.
Only then will I be happy. But then they get to that thing.
And it was just
they're still not happy.
Yeah.
Well, what was the problem?
It was just a moment in time that you were waiting for.
Exactly.
You weren't looking for the journey.
Exactly. And once you find the fact that the journey is actually the thing that will make you happy.
Yeah.
The progress to get to the goal, right? The goal is retiring, and maybe you'll feel happy when you get to retirement. Why not make happiness the thing that leads you to retirement?
Yeah. Like the precursor.
Exactly.
Like as much as you can be searching for happiness, right? A lot of people think that means externally.
Yeah.
Right? Like I need to find a thing that's going to make me happy.
Yes.
Well, what if you're not looking for a thing? What if whatever is around you is okay? And you can work within what's available to you, but you're working within now your mind, right? How are you actually interpreting what's given to you, what's around you? Like if you were born into a farmer's life, or you're born into a hunter-gatherer life, right? You wouldn't know what you don't know. So you enjoy and you pick up what's around you.
Exactly.
Right?
There's people in Africa, hunter-gatherers, that don't even know what a supermarket is.
Yeah.
Don't even know what a store is. They're like, what the fuck is that? I'm talking about it. I'm like, no, these people can run for 5, 6, 7 hours straight and not even break a sweat.
Yeah, and we'd be envious.
We would be I'll be happy when I can run that long.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be happy when you run that long. That's just one step in all of the things that encompass your life.
Yeah, it's
the
just
only
a symptom.
the only thing that you own is your body. The only thing that you own is what's inside of your skin. Right?
Ultimately.
You are effectively the thing that is watching over your entire body and your mind. You can decide to detach yourself emotionally from it. But most people don't understand this because they don't have that thought in their mind. Right?
Or even like that being a possibility.
It's not even it's not even a concept, right? This is something that's been lost to history. But most people find that the feeling of dopamine is the only thing that will make them feel that happiness, right?
Well,
dopamine comes from stuff such as winning the lottery,
yeah,
playing video games.
Everything
that isn't just fucking sitting and being bored and doing nothing. But sometimes that's even what people want to do.
Yeah, because it's better than doing something super shitty.
Exactly. But one really cool thing when you understand this concept is when you do something really shitty, super shitty, way more shitty than the thing that you need to do. That thing that you need to do becomes easy. Right? The thing that you know that needs to happen in your life, whether that's getting fit. Well, if you work as a fucking plumber who specifically pulls shit out of the ground, and that's the shittiest job in the world, literally, well, going to the gym probably won't be that hard for you.
Yeah.
Right? Or if you despise going to the gym, but you also really struggle to focus on this one specific task, whether it be, for me, 3D modeling, Blender, that kind of stuff that I'm learning. Well, if you get that hard thing out of the way that you really don't like to do, which is the gym, well, that makes it a lot easier for you to be able to say, okay, well, I was able to do this thing that I really hate doing, and now that allows me the ability to understand that I can focus on this thing that I know that I want to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want to do things, but they just don't because they don't think they can.
I think it's like that, as well as you not reflecting on the things that you've done well in your life, right? As much as being critical of the things that you've done wrong to correct those things, not spending enough time on the things that you've done well.
Yes.
Because you're not confirming the balance between...
Yes. But just kind of ponder on that for a second and why that is. What does our culture thrive on?
Like any kind of new stimulus that shows you a direction of something that is potentially new, or has interest in...
What does our culture thrive on? What happens when you go on Twitter? What happens?
Outrage.
What happens when... What is the easiest thing to go to when somebody spits on you? Straight to fucking anger.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
People focus and almost like expand on anger. It doesn't matter. You can do 100 good things in this community and in this culture, but you do one bad thing,
blackface,
everyone's gonna fucking lose it. And you just said blackface, so you're getting fucked now, right? Like all the good things in your life that you just done, you fucked up, right? But like seriously, it's the truth. So it's really hard for the person themselves to be able to think positively about the things that they've done in their life, because everybody else around them is saying, well, you fucked up here, you fucked up here, you fucked up here, and none of those things that you've done that are good are actually good, right? You didn't do a good job on that because you fucked up in this other area that's completely unrelated to that thing.
Yeah.
Right? So you never give yourself that time of day to say, hey, I did a fucking good job here.
Yeah.
Maybe I can do a good job on this thing now. Once you decide, okay, whatever those fucking people think doesn't fucking matter to me. Because I am the only person that should be able to...
You have self-confidence.
Well, it's not just that. It's the fact that you're conscious of the fact that what other people say and do doesn't affect you. Literally, it doesn't affect you.
It doesn't have to affect you.
It doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to.
Right? You can decide, this won't affect me now.
Yeah.
I have decided I'm going to detach my emotional self from that thing.
Yeah.
They can scream at me all they want. I'm not fucking responding to that.
Yeah, because
that's not going to benefit you.
No. Like, what way is you allowing yourself to be berated potentially gonna help you? It's not. But it's not like you're gonna solve it physically or anything like that. You're just not gonna allow, or you're not gonna see it in a way that it can affect you, right? Like, sure, let's say someone's screaming at you and you're doing a customer service job and you're just trying to put stock away and this person can't find their item and they're yelling at you, but you have to realize that it's not at you, right? That person's doing it to the world. Like, that person's just projecting, right? It's not like you just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time for that person.
Sure, yes. They're directing it at your direction.
At your direction.
But you can decide, okay, this is not my direction. You don't have to take it personally.
Yeah.
Because really, in the grand scheme of things, if you, like, one thing that I want people to start practicing, this is something that I really love to do, is in that exact moment that somebody's screaming at you, like the lady
Yeah.
that I talked to you about earlier, and I can say this on here too because it's fucking hilarious. Like the lady that was screaming at me. Am I going to care about this in a week? Is
No.
this something that I'm going to be concerned with in a week?
No.
Right?
And if it is, you should probably look into why that is.
Well, the only thing that's going to concern me in a week is somebody stabbing me with a fucking knife, right? That's
Yeah.
the threat. So
Yeah.
that needs to be stopped. That needs to be responded to.
Yeah.
Because if somebody's attacking you, yes, respond. But emotional assault is not a real thing. People make it a real thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like it comes down to how they've built their own mental immune system.
Well, yeah, and
Right?
most people come from public school, so you don't get a mental immune system.
No. Well, I mean, a lot of it is, does this actually apply to me? And is this person doing this with the intent to harm me rather than intent to be like legitimate and correct with some kind of criticism?
Exactly.
Right? Like,
No.
is this something that's constructive?
Or are they just fucking
Or are they just
going off the
spewing?
rails, spewing because they hate the world?
Yeah. Right?
probably
And that's
what it
likely more so the
Yeah,
case.
that is likely the case.
But
Right? So really, think about it. Will this affect me in a week? No? Well, then I'm not going to respond to it that way. Like as if it's going to affect me, because it's not affecting me.
yeah.
Why the fuck would I want it to affect me if it's not going to affect me in a week?
Yeah, you're making a
Right?
mountain out of an anthill.
If it is going to affect you in a week, is it going to affect me in a year? Probably not.
yeah.
I'm going to move on. Right?
Yeah, and what is it going to take to get over
What's
this?
it going to take to get over it? Well, if you decide that you have to get all the way up to 10 years, is it going to affect me in 10 years? No? Well, then you can decide that it's not going to affect you right the fuck now.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, how fast can I
Time-
get over it?
Time is completely irrelevant when it comes to emotional response.
Yeah, it's all in your brain.
It's all in your brain. There's chemicals firing when these things are happening. You'll
Yeah.
be feeling a certain way, but you're allowed to detach yourself, pull yourself away, and be like,
Take a
and
step
still,
back.
still focus.
Yeah.
Try to help if you can. Be like, hey, what can I do to help you feel better? I don't want you to be feeling like this, because me as a person who is deciding not to respond emotionally to somebody who is attacking emotionally, right?
Yeah.
I am not trying to just keep myself emotionless, right? Because you feel emotion. That's
Yeah.
totally normal. But
Yeah.
it's just you're choosing how to respond to it.
Yeah.
So instead, I will come at any situation besides the lady today because I just could not help but laugh. But in a regular situation, I would try to come at it with a sense of trying to help, because that person is obviously just in a state of anger. I don't know what's happened in their day. I don't know what's happened in their life. Maybe they lost their dad that day and they're just losing their shit because they're mad at the world, as we just said.
Yeah.
Right? And you just happen to be the fucking target.
Yep.
You just happen to be in the crossfire. You didn't grab the milk fast enough for
Yeah.
them, and whatever. And it is what it is. That was it.
The fucking whole pile
Yeah.
fell down.
They dropped their quarter, and it's all your fucking fault that they dropped the
Yeah.
quarter, right? Like it is what it is. You just have to be bigger than that. You have to be like, okay, this is my life, and this person is obviously struggling, and they're trying to bring me down to their level. But I am going to decide to rise above that and keep myself where I am, because I am me. I am not them. They can feel however they want. I'm going to try to help them feel better if I can. But fuck going to their level, because I've been there before. I know what that level feels like, right? I've been completely overcome with emotion, not able to control myself, not able to control my mind. I've literally held a sword to my stepfather. And I didn't bring it up and point it at them, but I was so overcome with emotion that I just decided to grab a fucking sword off the wall. Right? You know how dumb that makes me feel? And how thinking back on that, that was the like, I was just like pent up. I should have probably just gone and done like 500 push-ups, but at that moment it was just like I was mad at him. That was the fucking he was the enemy. He was the fucking enemy.
Yeah.
And my fucking evolutionary instinct, kill the fucking enemy, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just what it was. And I wasn't going to hurt him, but like I was
You're trapped
in
in
that
that
moment.
atmosphere.
And that's when you realize that with people, and that's people's brains work that way. You can realize that your brain works that way. And then you can be like, well, why does my brain work that way? And then you can kind of think about it and tinker with your own brain and be like, I don't really want it to work that way anymore. So I'm going to step away from that and let that be over there. You might still feel the emotion. You might still feel the frustration. You will. You definitely will. But you can decide to detach from it and be like, that is something that I will leave not at the forefront of my mind.
There were some technical difficulties, but thank you for sticking around, and we will see you next time.
See y'all later.